The first question is, how steep is that hill that you're about to climb? The answer is something you're going to be able to work out right now. So we're going to have a look at how to calculate gradient. Stay tuned. Gradient is a ratio. So when we are calculating our gradient, we are aiming to get to a ratio that tells us how far we have to go horizontally in order to go up 1 meter vertically. Okay, so our calculation here, well, our ratio is going to be vertical distance and horizontal distance. So how far do we have to go horizontally in order to go 1 meter up? And that is what this calculation is going to come down to. So we know a ratio is 1 is to something. So we are going to need to figure out what that something is. So let's have a look at our map over here. I'm going to calculate the gradient between trig beacon 176 and spot height 416. Okay, so I've chosen these two because they give us a very specific altitude. So we know that it is exactly 416 meters above sea level, for example. Okay, so we're going to have to calculate on the vertical distance side. That is finding the difference between the two different altitudes. So in this instance, 509.2 meters minus 416 meters. Right? So once we've done that, we get our difference, 93.2 meters, and that is on our vertical side. Now horizontally, we need to figure out the distance. Now we know how to do a distance calculation. So in this instance, we are going to measure in centimeters. This is a 1:50,000 topographical map, so we know that to find our kilometers, we can just halve that. So 3.9 centimeters, we can halve it or do the full calculation for distance, but half of that is going to be 1.95 kilometers. So the problem is we can't have a ratio with two different units. We can't have kilometers on one side and meters on the other side. So we're going to have to fix that. So we're going to keep our meters the same on our vertical side, and on our horizontal distance, we're going to translate that 1,950 meters. Now, in order to get it to 1 meter, we're going to have to divide that 93.2 by itself. So we divide 93.2 by 93.2 to get 1, and what we do to one side, we do to the other. So we're going to divide that 1,950 meters by 93.2, and that will give us 20.9 meters. So our ratio is therefore 1:20.9. Right, so that is what our gradient is. So if we look at that, to go up 1 meter, we have to go a full 20.9 meters. So that one was quite a gentle gradient. So we're going to quickly have a look at how a gradient might look, what the ratio is going to look like for a steeper gradient. This is a different map. We've got Hermanus out, and I'm going to go from Trig Beacon 211 to the Lakeview Communications Tower down on the coastline. So our Trig Beacon will have a set altitude. It tells us what the altitude is, and that's cool. That makes it easier. And that's easy enough to get there. So when we're going down and looking by the Lakeview Com Tower as to what the altitude is there, we actually need to have a little look at the coastline, because there isn't a defined number attached to that communications tower. So you can see from sea level, I just double checked to see the first bold contour line, which would tell me where the 100 is, and that is 40 meters above sea level. So we subtract, we find that difference. So 530.5 meters is our vertical distance. Horizontal, calculating the same way that I would for normal distance calculations, 2.5 centimeters. I halve that for a 1:50,000 map. That's 1.25 kilometers. Okay, we've got to make sure it's the same unit. So my vertical distance is going to stay the same, but my horizontal distance is going to be converted so that it's 1,250 meters. All right, now to get to 1 meter, I'm going to have to divide by itself, so 530.5. And I'm going to have to divide the 1,250 meters by the same amount, which gives me 2.35 and a couple of other digits. My ratio, therefore, is 1 is to 2.4. And if you look at that, to go up 1 meter, we only actually have to travel 2.5 meters. So that is a much steeper slope. And that is how we calculate gradient. So you can decide just how much of a hike you want. Like, share, subscribe. See you soon.